Why don't we start by asking you about on the upper right of the site, you've kind of put this big list on there, and you have things that will be obsolete by 2020. So why don't we just begin by asking you about this particular list, and can you kind of highlight a few elements of the list of things will be obsolete by 2020 and explain them to us and why they're going to be obsolete?
Well, I think the whole point of this story and why it struck such a nerve with people is because it fundamentally challenges the idea of where learning is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So think of learning as happening in a classroom, in a school,
right.
Times of day, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And what this post is challenging is that our very notion of the school day is going to change, is going to evaporate. So the idea of desks, right, that how mobile devices are going to change our relationship to fixed places. So we can learn anywhere, 24 hours a day. And the idea of school buildings, we don't need to come to a school to necessarily learn. We can study at home, we can study in museums, we can study in libraries, we can study within businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is kind of a huge offering to tell people to think about. And I think it got a lot of people a little bit nervous about it too, because if you see some of the comments, they're pretty intense.
Well,
this idea of fear of Wikipedia and fear of something that's not printed, So we think of Encyclopedia Britannica as the owner of all this content and of all this information and fact. And that's being shaken to its core because of sites like Wikipedia, who are a lot of times written by experts or students or people doing research. Not all the time, and it's a good place to start for your research, but not the end-all, the final result. But the idea of the wisdom of the masses and of Web 2.0 and the social environment helping to inform these really interesting topics of conversation. And the other interesting thing is parent-teacher conference night. So things are changing. I have a daughter, she's 8 years old, and I email her teacher all the time. He always replies to me. And so do I need to go in on a regular schedule, twice a year to check in on her grades? No, because I can see what she's doing online. I can, not yet because she's just in third grade, but, down the line, there are huge data systems that track how your kids are doing, so parents can check in at any time to figure out what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that is, turning the current school system on its head.
What's interesting to me is how heated the debate is about the future of education, because there's so many sort of vested interests. I'm reading right now the book by Mark Borlein called The Dumbest Generation. Have you read this book?
No, I haven't read it.
Well, probably the ideas in this book you probably heard. It's probably in the voices of all the people that bitch about articles like this. And so, what do you think about people that, like Borlein, who makes the argument that and there's a whole group of these kind of like digital media skeptics, including Nicholas Carr, who makes this convincing argument that the internet is making us stupid, and Borlein, who believes that the baby boomers were the smartest generation, and that like this current generation of the millennials, which is all of you, that they're basically really shallow learners, that they multitask at the expense of not like reading great books and like sitting in the library and reading War and Peace and getting really smart doing that. And so what do you think about people? What's your response to those types of arguments?
I respect their point of view because it comes from a place of fear. I think everything I write about and the challenging notions, the things that really resonate with people either negatively or positively are the ones that have to do with their personal experiences. So I feel like the Luddites, the people who are skeptics, they have a sense of fear about how the world is changing in front of them and they can't control it. And it takes a certain kind of mind, like John Seeley Brown, who is in his, I want to say 70s, if not older, to really understand the profound nature of what's happening and not be scared of it, to embrace it, and to go with it. I think the people who have such strong beliefs against, trying to stop what's happening, I think they're going to be left behind, and it will be sad for them, but it's too late. The train has left the station.
Right. I go to your site, and you've got like probably the best archive on the web of articles on e-readers and tablets. I mean, there's so much on there. What do you guys think about? I mean, what do you think rather about the future of tablets for education?
Yeah, I think we're just beginning to see the effect it's going to have. I think at the very low level kind of technical aspect of what's going to change is merely the weight of books. We won't have the weight of books anymore, right? These huge textbooks to carry on. That's already being done. Above that, I think we have yet to see, really in a large scale, how it's going to change the way people learn. So some of the way that technology is changing the way people learn is through the social connection students have with each other and with their teachers, right? And so if we get to a place where a student doesn't have to pay for a textbook, can access information through an open education resource, through like MIT OpenCourseWare or OER, on their tablet, if they can make notes, if they can share these notes with them, if they can collaborate on projects together, again, this sends a huge ripple effect on the textbook industry, on institutions as they are, paying for a class, like that comes into question. If students can figure out how to, collect the best information themselves, why do they need a professor to guide them through it? So it puts into question the role of the educator, the role of the institution, the role of the textbook industry, and how they're going to provide value in the digital world.
Right.
And I think you probably know about these guys. I think Inkling is one of these content providers to really keep a close eye on, because they're building textbooks specifically for the iPad, and so that it's not just text thrown into PDF format with beautiful images. But there's interactive parts. It's actually built for the iPad, and I think again, they haven't necessarily reached their their potential. It's definitely very exciting field to watch.
What do you think? Do you think that in the future, when we're utilizing virtual reality for a lot of things, augmented reality, video conferencing, Second Life, whatever, or the future versions of these things, and we're not meeting people in real life, basically, face to face, do you think that could have negative consequences, I suppose, for human beings?
Yeah, that's the $64,000 question. I think we have to be cognizant about how we communicate with each other. I think it's amazing that we have all these different channels, these different avenues. When you talk to someone, you can email them, you can text them, you can call them on the phone, you can Skype. I think what's wonderful about it is that we are much more connected with each other in some ways than we ever were. And social media has played into this. How often are you on Facebook every day checking on what your friends are doing across the world? This is something that you could not have done before. So in some ways, it actually brings us closer together. But I also think we do have to be cognizant about making sure that we don't replace a text, with a phone call all the time, because, that kind of human connection is still necessary. I don't think necessarily it's in danger. I just think we need to be cognizant of it. And actually, I wrote a post a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you saw this, about how, speaking of multitasking, how that our attention is diverted in every which way.
Right.
How meditating actually helps us with multitasking more efficiently, and it's not that you can actually do more tasks at the same time, but it's a way to figure out what's most important to prioritize. So I see text coming, I see a phone call, but I really need to work on my story right now. So I'm going to, intentionally block it out. And these are muscles that we need to train ourselves to do. I think we're so excited by everything right now that we're kind of falling prey to all of it. But I think human beings will figure out how to make it most efficient and most useful.